Welcome back to Jolly Cove Book Club. I'm so excited. We're finally talking about The Perfect Couple. Obviously, I'm here with SG and Issa, my beautiful co-hosts. I feel like we're all bursting at the seams. We've been trying not to talk about this for weeks now. We had to wait to record for a little bit because traveling and schedules and things, but it's finally time. We're finally going to talk about it, and I couldn't be more excited. So hello, ladies. How are we doing? How are we feeling?
I'm truly buzzing. I cannot wait. First of all, anytime we get to talk about an Elin Hilderbrand book, I'm always excited about that.
Yeah.
And bonus points that there's a whole show that has its own. I think we could do a whole other episode just on the show alone. I keep forgetting we got to talk about the book too. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Agree. We should have planned
100%.
we should have planned part one, part two.
2.
But we're here. We're going to do it all. It's just going to be a big juicy episode, I think.
100%.
Okay, let's kick it off as we always do with Jolly Drinks Corner. What are you ladies drinking today?
So
I'm boring
start
today.
us off.
Okay, I'll kick it off because I've got an on-theme drink. For YouTube, you can see it's already halfway drunken. So I did my own little
it's lived in.
It's lived in. I did my own fall twist on the blackberry mojito, which was the signature drink of their rehearsal dinner party that they had in the book and in the show. I was so glad that they did the blackberry mojitos also on the show. I feel like that's so fun that they carried that little detail over. But I actually didn't have mint in my house, and I didn't really want to drink alcohol tonight. So I was like, let's make it a no-hito, but then for fall, let's make it rosemary because that's, being real, that's just what I had in my fridge for herbs. So I was like, it actually sounds good though. Blackberry and rosemary, I feel like that could be good. And it is so yummy. I love it. So blackberry, simple syrup, rosemary, and lime, and sparkling water as well. So that makes it nice and fizzy. So it's a blackberry fizz, loosely inspired by the blackberry
mojito.
That was such a long
story. It's so
story.
funny. Whenever we logged on to start our conversation, before we even started recording, I was like, please tell me one of y'all made the blackberry mojito. And so if you said last week you made the legit one from the book, and how was that?
I did. It was so good. I drank 2 of them, and then I had a tiny hangover the next day, and I was like, why did I have 2? But it was so good, and I haven't felt like that in so long because I never have that much to drink, but it was so flipping good.
I feel like that only adds to the element in the books that they talk about how good they are, that people are just drinking them and drinking them.
Exactly.
So you can attest to how that would go down.
I made one and I was like, well, I have all the ingredients still. I might as well go make myself another one. And then I took it too far. And the next morning I was like, I have a headache.
That was me the other day. I made a hibiscus margarita in the Thermomix. I had never used it for a cocktail, but my mom was over and we were like, let's make a drink. Let's have a little happy hour. And she had brought hibiscus leaf, the flower dried tea from Mexico, because my grandma would always bring it and she has tons at the house. So we were like, okay, let's try it out. And I put the leaves in the machine. It brews the tea first. Then you put tequila after it chills, and it makes frozen hibiscus margaritas. And they're hot pink, so cute. And so we're all drinking them, watching TV.
I need one of these immediately.
No, it was so good. And then there was extra, and I did the same thing. I was like, we have extra. Might as well.
Might as well.
It was a great situation.
Every time you talk about the Thermomix, I'm this much closer to getting one or putting it on my Christmas list. It just sounds so magical. What do you mean you made a margarita in your Thermomix? That is so cool.
The best. You just go on the app. I looked up cocktails, and then that came up. I was like,
is this the same thing that'll
make
bread for you and make soup for
you?
Yeah,
it makes everything. I had a chicken noodle soup today because I made it last night in the Thermomix. Literally everything we eat is on that machine. It's the best.
Oh my gosh.
And I feel like a true chef.
Yeah,
honestly, we need to get an affiliate link for Issa just so she can sell her Thermomixes.
Literally.
This is not an ad.
You got 2 buyers right here. Well, maybe at Christmas time because those are not cheap.
It's an investment.
I'm going to wait for Black Friday.
But then you truly don't need anything else. So if you're thinking, if you're listening to this and you're putting a registry together for a wedding, or you're moving to a new house and you don't have anything, this is the perfect time to get it, because then you don't have to fill your kitchen with a blender or a crock pot, an Instapot, all these extra things that sit on your counters and just take over all the space. You just have one thing, and I guess that way the investment makes sense because you're not buying all these things.
Yeah, that's so true. We're saving money here.
It's girl math.
It's girl math. That actually does make sense. And then it's like one thing on your counter instead of 5
Yeah, I
things.
think it's like actual
bunch.
math though. Like it's not just girl math, it's real math.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sold. What are y'all drinking?
I'm drinking a hot tea, plain chamomile. Nothing crazy.
I don't know about y'all, but I've been on Perfect Couple TikTok. And that will come. I want to bring that up again later in the episode because
Please
I sent
do.
them a TikTok to like for reference later. But I've been on Perfect Couple TikTok, and it talked about like Diane Keaton accepting the role in this movie, and it was like, so I get to talk in a funny accent,
Nicole
so I get to do this.
Kidman.
What did I say? Diane Keaton.
I wish
meant
Diane
Nicole.
Keaton was in this.
Nicole, they talked about Nicole Kidman, like when she was accepting the role and like all the things, and she was like, and can I hold a glass of white wine and wrap myself in a sweater? And I was like, yes, that was everything to me. And so I really wanted a crisp white wine, and I didn't have any. We had like red wine, and I was like, no, that's not the vibe. We had champagne, but I didn't want champagne. I really wanted white wine. So next best thing I could come up with was Sprite. And so
How is that the next best thing?
I was like, where are we going?
We were really going somewhere and then just like down.
But I wanted the vibes. But if I didn't tell you what this was, didn't it look like a white wine?
Honestly, red wine would have been better.
I know. It looks like a white wine. Like, look at it. Like, you see this, you're like, oh, that's a white wine.
You should have just told us it was white wine.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not
For
a
the
fraud.
Lied to the Jolly Cove listeners. They would.
I'm not a liar. Let the record show that SG is not a liar.
It's like when you watch a TV show and they're drinking something and it's not the real thing.
Yeah, we're on set.
Literally.
I literally should have just lied because y'all would have thought this was white wine. But if I'd had champagne, it would have looked different. I wanted it to look, I wanted it to feel, I wanted it to be like crisp and cold. And so Sprite it is. But if I had had a white in this house, I would have poured a glass of white wine. Any white wine. I didn't give a rip. I just wanted white wine.
I didn't give a rip.
I should have done that. This is so delicious, but there's so much like blackberry chunks in it that every time I take a sip, I'm like also chewing the blackberries, and it's really annoying because I'm trying to talk. But it is what it is. We're already here. We are just going to dive straight into our thoughts and feelings about this book and the show. First, let's talk about, because I want to try to keep it a little bit separated.
Okay.
Thoughts on the book before you watch the show. How did you feel? What did you think? Just like a little brief taster. Do we love?
Adored. Yay. This was one of my favorite Elin Hilderbrand books. Every one I read of hers, I like more and more. I don't know if I liked it more than 5-Star Couple because I did just like there was something so special about it.
Oh yeah, 5-Star Weekend.
Am I okay? I'm having like
no, as she's been under the weather. She has
brain
I have
fog.
been sick. So like if you're watching this, that's why I just got up. I had to go get some tissue. And like I'm better, but then some things, like I swear my brain's still in a fog. So
I don't want to call you out, but I just needed to
please call me out, please, y'all. When I start yapping, please correct me. You have full permission. So 5-Star Weekend was my favorite over this one. I love that this one took place in New York too. It gave it like a bit of a cozier element than just on the island, because I will admit, like I was like, oh, I'm kind of ready to transition into autumn books, like cozier reads, but this one being like told mostly from New York really helped with that. So yeah, I loved it. It was one of my faves.
Yay. I'm so happy to hear that. Also the fact that it's like murder mystery feel cozy.
Exactly. And like Elin Hilderbrand's take on a murder mystery was like even more special.
Agreed. Issa, what did you think? Was this your first? This was your first Elin, right?
This was my first Elin, and I'm obsessed.
I'm so
I honestly think that this is the best book that I have read.
Oh my gosh.
In like a long time. Like I can't think of a better book that I've read.
That makes me so excited.
I'm so over the moon.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I felt like her writing was so detailed. I love that because it really felt like you're watching movie play out, and every character within the scenes of the book was described just so thoroughly. I felt like I didn't have any questions about it. And I like that because I feel like as like a journalist, broadcast media, I studied that. Like I always have questions and I'm like, oh, I want to know like more about this, like the details of this. And I felt like with her writing style, like it leaves you with no questions because of the way she describes everything. So I love that.
What did you think about her imagery of like Nantucket?
Stunning. Like everything
Right?
was so vivid and gorgeous. Like you felt like you're really there. The
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I really liked is that she like shares a lot of details throughout the story that you think are kind of irrelevant or they're just like
Yes.
whatever. And like a lot of details, and it's often like overwhelming, so you don't really like it, just kind of like, okay, I'm reading the story, but then it ties like later in other chapters, it ties back, and it was actually really important, like a really tiny thing in the description. And I don't know if that's consistent throughout like her other books, but I loved she did
Oh,
that
yeah.
specifically in the part where Lola's at the ticketing desk and she's describing like every single interaction that she's having with the different people at the desk. And it's kind of like she's just going through like, oh, this is her mundane routine job, but later you find out like that one of the woman who has her tickets stolen is actually connected to like the bigger twist involving Scooter. So I really like that. I felt like there was a lot of aha moments that show how cleverly she writes. And I liked it. It made it a lot more immersive.
So good.
100%.
Yeah.
She's so thoughtful with all of her details. I feel like, and when you're reading an Elin Hilderbrand book, like you're truly being sucked into and absorbed into this world.
Yeah. You're in the universe. And it's just, oh, it's so good. And the more you read, the more you're going to feel like that because you get to know the characters and like Chief Capinash is in more. And it's just, it's so good. Yeah,
I'm
I know. I
hoping-
love
So
this
good.
book.
Because this was your second time reading it, right?
Yeah, this was a reread for me. And I loved it so much the first time. I equally loved it the second time. Even though I knew it was coming, there were so many like little other like secondary secrets and like twists that I completely forgot about. So it was like fun to experience them again, to feel like fresh. Cause I don't have the best memory, especially with like even like some books that I've loved and read. I'm like, I don't actually remember exactly how that ended. This one I did remember how the book ended, but like there were other little details around it that I didn't remember. So it was just as fun to read it again. And I actually listened to it this time on Audible, whereas the first time I read it on my Kindle. And it was just a great experience. Okay, that was our thoughts on the book. Now, what do we think about the show? I know. I feel like it's very I don't know, divisive. A lot of people are really unhappy about the show, but
I'm going to be honest, when we first started watching the show, I was like, no, they're messing up my book. Like, I'm not pleased. I was watching it also, and I think y'all were the same way. You watched it with someone who had not read the book before.
yeah.
Watching them love it and get so into it, I was like, I need to remove myself from the book and just watch it as a show.
Yeah.
That's in season 3. I wrote down basically all of season 3 was like so different that I was like, this is just a different story, and I'm just gonna remove myself.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. I'm like, season 3.
This is so funny.
You need to do a compilation of every
You're a good
time I
queen.
get tongue twisted this episode.
I love it.
Episode 3, I stopped thinking about it as a book of the show. And I think too, like when I read Elin Hilderbrand, like I picture more of Nancy Meyers style movie and stuff. And this was very like Netflix. And like you could tell based on a lot of the elements, like the language. I was not expecting that much, like, promise I'm not a prude, but like that much cussing. Like there was so much cussing.
It was
and
so much more vulgar and like dark vibes than the book.
Agreed. And so I think that took me by surprise. All of the scenes in episode 4 between like Shooter and Amelia though were like dreamy. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so cute. I loved it. And then I thought that the ending was so interesting the way it was just like told. So that's all my thoughts. But like basically all of my notes are the differences that I did not like in the beginning. Okay. But then once I just kind of gave it up and was like, just watch it as a show.
Just surrender to,
I enjoyed it much more.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I had the exact same experience. Like at the beginning, I was like, you guys, this isn't how it's supposed to be. I watched it with my mom and with my husband, Josh. And the whole time I was being so annoying. I'm like, wait, it was so different in the book. This little boy wasn't in the book. Blah, blah, blah. This is so, like, I was being obnoxious. And they're like, we don't care. We want to enjoy the show. And I was like, you're right. You're 100%. Right. So literally after episode 2, I was like, hey, I'm just going to watch it as a show, remove myself and like enjoy the process. Cause it actually made it so fun to not know for sure what was going to happen. Cause they were switching so much stuff up that I was like, I don't even know if it's going to end up how the book ended up.
Exactly.
So that kind of was like a whole nother really fun element that I enjoyed
I
about it.
completely agree.
But I was sad that
I
it lost
agree.
a good bit of like the Elin Hilderbrand charm and like the coziness of the book. It felt a lot more like it's just Hollywood is just like dark and twisted and gross, and that's what it felt like. So
I agree. I
whatever.
think it almost, because when Wesley, when we were watching it, his comment was it almost felt like in a like Outer Banks, you know, like so much drama and so much like
Over the top.
twisted. I don't know. It was just giving Netflix, and
Yeah.
Netflix produced it, so
Yeah.
I kind of in my head thought that it was going to feel like the way I pictured it in my mind while reading was more of like a Nancy Myers kind of feel to it. So then when I saw it and it was giving, that's exactly what I thought. I in my head I was like, this is giving OBX a little bit. Like that kind of took me by surprise because I felt like they had an opportunity to create something like very different.
I agree.
And so that was a shock. But then at the same time, like I was trying to go into it with more of the thought process that like this is a completely different piece of art and I need to absorb it in that way. And it was fun that they changed things because then I was surprised and it wasn't just like me knowing everything that was going to happen. There was some things that I understand why they did, and then there was other things that I think we'll discuss probably in the part about like all the changes. I think we're gonna have like a conversation about that, I'm sure, because I have like a lot of thoughts on the changes. That I felt like maybe took away a little bit from the show, but I also think that's because the show was so condensed. Like I think they said that it took place in like a day versus like the whole thing, the investigation. Versus the book takes place over a longer period. So I was like, I get how if they're like having to condense this even into a season, maybe that's why like it makes sense that they had to make all these changes to make it work. But I don't know. I feel like it would have been great if they could have made it maybe multiple seasons.
Yeah, or even just 10 episodes.
Taken
like
longer.
6
I feel
episodes.
like 10 episodes would have done it. And I know most Netflix seasons right now are 12 and they drop 6 at a time. So I was really hoping once it came out, I'd be like, gotcha, we're giving you 6 more.
I just wanted more flashbacks. Like I think
I
we
wanted
saw
more New
a lot
York.
of what was like I wanted more of the whole New York. I wanted more of the Merritt and Tag like off-site, not like at the wedding, but or like the pre-wedding, but like at the hotel or like
at the wine tasting,
at the apartment.
Like the wine
like there
event.
was so many scenes that were super iconic to the book that I felt like got cut out. And I get it if it's a condensed timeline, but then I felt like it took away from the context and the depth of some of the relationships. And
I know
we'll
Wesley was really confused.
Totally.
He was like, so like, how did they meet? And like all that stuff. And I was like, okay, well, let me tell you how they met in the book. And then he was like, I don't understand. Like, why is she kissing Shooter? It was like really confused about that. I was like, she's been in love with him for like a long time. Like, it's not like it happened this weekend. And like, I feel like they
didn't do that justice at all.
No,
the Shooter and Amelia / Celeste.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed about that. Yeah. Which we can get into. Should we do our like casting thoughts? Because I feel like this is going to be like a long, juicy one because there's so many characters and so many changes to the characters. And I actually didn't like cast because I know Issa, you like probably have like a full cast. I'm so excited to hear what you think, like your dream cast versus who they actually cast. I didn't really do that. I did for some characters, but anyway, let's start with Merritt. And just talk about like how do we feel about the cast, their performances, who would we have liked to see cast instead, who do you think would do a better job? Okay, Merritt, let's go.
I'm obsessed with Megan Fahy. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. Like
too,
I fell in love with her on The Bold Type, like that show.
Oh my gosh, I love that show.
Was on Freeform. Oh
so
my god,
good.
that show was my everything, and I like loved her in it. So seeing her
and
on
White
there,
Lotus,
and then on White Lotus, like I was like, oh my god. And my mom and I call her Sutton. Like we watched White Lotus, and we kept calling her Sutton from Bold Type, and then my mom called me again, and she's like, Sutton is on The Perfect Couple. Like it's just
so
funny.
proud of little Sutton.
Yeah, it's the best. So I love her as like an actress. So I was excited to see her in this role and that she was cast. But I almost like felt like she would have been a better Celeste. Like in my head, that is what Celeste / Amelia looked like blonde, blue-eyed, like kind of. Yeah. And then so then it was kind of hard for me to watch it, and like it was hard to make that switch just because their descriptions in the book were almost like Merritt and Celeste were yin and yang. Like one was like a dark haired like model kind of look and
Yeah.
feel
More
versus
like
the other
edgy.
more edgy
Yeah.
and cool, versus the other girl was like a girl next door, blonde, blue eyes, but like very different energies. And so I feel like they switched them on the show, and that was like kind of confusing at the beginning. Obviously then you get used to it, but
Isa, I felt the same way when they were first showing the characters. I was like, oh, she is brunette. Like, that must be Merritt. And then I was like, wait a minute. Because I was picturing them completely different. Because, kind of like you said, Ellen leaves no question about what these people look like. She gives their descriptions down to the clothes that they're wearing. And I feel like, of course, any movie or TV show adaptation is going to be just a little bit different. I feel like with this one, though, like they could have easily found people to have matched their descriptions so well. So I think that was the part that I was like confused almost. Like, why did you feel the need to like almost rewrite the characters that were perfectly good to begin with, you know?
Agreed. Wait, Isa, did you have who'd you want to cast instead of Merritt or instead of Megan?
oh, so I had two thoughts. When I was reading the description, I almost imagined her kind of like Kendall Jenner. That was like how I pictured it. I was like someone with this like tall, giving like high fashion model, like influencer, like it's giving Kendall Jenner. So I was almost thinking, or like a Bella Hadid. Like in my head, I was thinking they would probably cast a model for this role. But then I started thinking about influencers because she's of her job. And I was like, okay, if they were to cast an influencer in this role just because it's like makes sense, like who would I pick? And then I started thinking of her the entire time while reading. And that's how I thought of this character. Do you guys follow Jordan Sloan?
Oh my gosh.
That
Perfection.
is literally who I pictured the entire time. I was like, if there was an influencer that had to play this, like a real life influencer, it's Jordan Sloan. Like she's giving like mysterious, like sexy, stunning queen, like high fashion, everything I could ask for and more. Also is giving that like quiet luxury, like very much like old money fashion sense. I felt like she would be perfect.
Okay, wait, I've got a photo for the YouTube.
Like that was my perfect Merritt in my head.
Oh,
it was her.
That's such a good call, Isa. That is so good. I couldn't think of anyone, but you're right. This is her. I don't know why I didn't think of her.
Like it just was her. And then I couldn't stop thinking about it. As I read, it was like her. And then when we got Megan Fahey, I was like, is this like a bit more like excited? Like, I don't know, like a little bit more open book, like excitable. I don't know. I felt like she needed to be more mysterious.
Yeah. I feel like the Merritt in the book is very mysterious, cool girl.
Yeah,
chic,
very
New
cool
York
girl
vibes.
chic.
Yeah. And Megan Fahey was like very chaotic, which actually makes more sense for her the actions that she took. Like, because in the book, it was a little bit unbelievable that cool girl Merritt was like falling for Tag. But in this movie or in the show, it just kind of made more sense because she was a little bit all over the place, free spirit, chaotic.
Like a little lost in the sauce.
I thought it made sense in the book too, but y'all know I'm married to a man like 2 months older than me, but if I was not, I would fully be with a man much older than me. So I got it. I didn't even think twice. I was like, absolutely, she's going out with the old man.
That's so funny. Okay, wait, did you guys know or see that Amelia/Celeste, I don't even know what to call her now.
Why did they change that? That was the dumbest thing.
So annoying. I know why they did it, but it's like still dumb.
I don't
feel
get
like
it.
It makes
so
more
dumb.
confusion because Nicole Kidman plays someone named Celeste in Big Little Lies, like that came out 10 years ago. Like that's
oh my
so
gosh,
old.
who cares? Literally,
I know it's weird, but anyway, Amelia/Celeste, the actress who plays her is Bono's daughter. Did you guys know that?
No.
Bono.
So a Nepo baby.
Like the icon, the
a
legend.
Baby.
Bono from like the Beatles, right? Wait, is he from the Beatles? No, he's
no.
from U2.
Not in the Beatles.
Oh my God. Cut that out before we get hate. No, this is funny. You have to leave it in.
Bono from the Beatles.
So embarrassed. Bono from U2. I was thinking of Ringo. They both are like Ringo, Bono. They end with an O. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
we'll give it to you.
She gets points because she's Irish and she spoke with a an American accent, and I
American
didn't think twice
accent.
about it. So that was
Yeah.
impressive. Other than that, I did not like her casting. I feel like, well, first of all,
Yeah.
she looks nothing like the way she was described in the book, and second of all, her
100%.
vibe and her personality was nothing like in the book either. Like she
That's
had the same
what
job,
I wanted
but
to mention. The personality
Yeah.
was so different. I was talking to my mom about that. Like she in the book, she has this energy that
she's
she's
like a
like
dork.
this. She's like,
Yeah.
and she's almost like so sweet and kind that
Yeah.
like, and she has the stutter. Like all of this works to make her like almost like she's like a victim of her circumstances, and like you
Yes.
don't want to blame her for like the whole situation with Shooter. You're like, oh, like. You know,
Yeah.
things
She
happen
deserves
and
something good.
you know,
yeah.
she deserves love. Like you're kind of like you feel for her, even though what she's doing is wrong. You're just like, oh, like she's so sweet. Like her mom has like all these things.
Yeah, and
But
she's so
then
impressionable.
on the exactly, then you watch the show where she's like much more like has like a little bit of like she's able to stand up to Greer. She
She's
has
like,
more
"What's
of an
up,
attitude.
Gigi Dubs?" Like,
Yeah,
calling
like
Greer
she's
out.
like more, which I think it's cool. She has a voice for herself and she's not letting this like crazy family step all over her. But then it doesn't work with the Shooter thing because then like as a viewer, I kind of like I'm like I don't feel bad for you. Like you're doing something wrong and like
She
it
was
is
not
what it is.
likable. In the
Yeah,
show, she was
so-
not likable.
From the beginning,
Yeah.
when they had that whole thing about her going out in her like underwear, I was like, this does not feel like Celeste at all.
This is
I feel like
not our
that was
girl.
red flag one. And that's, I really thought, I was like, oh, well, this must be Merritt then, because like this is totally something Merritt would do.
Yeah.
So
It's just bizarre. They changed it so much.
100%.
Not only her name, but like the whole vibe of the character. So I actually picked someone who I think I wanted to see cast as Celeste. And I chose Anna Sophia Robb. Do you guys remember her?
yes.
She was in the
Oh,
Carrie Diaries.
100%.
Yes,
The Carrie Diaries.
that's
and
perfect.
right, I feel like she could just play someone who's like very soft-spoken, girl next
Yeah.
door, like sweetheart, like working at a zoo, like a big like nerd, but like
No, I
so
literally could see
cute.
that so
Yep.
good.
Okay, yay.
So perfect. The person I like fan cast was Lily Reinhart from
Ooh.
Riverdale.
That's a good one too.
That's actually so good. Yeah.
Because she feels like she has the same like physical description.
Yeah.
But then I think she also does a great job at playing like the girl that's like broken and like hurt, but also
And like
can,
really
like,
smart.
stand up for herself and has a voice. Like I think she can play those complexities well.
100%.
That's really good. What do we think about Benji?
I could
in the
not
show?
picture him. I had a problem. And then who I saw in the show, like I was just did they not describe in the book that he's like not cute?
So
Did
they said
say
he was
that?
less handsome than Thomas, but he was still very handsome. He was just like
Because
not
that
as cute
made
as
it
his brother.
difficult for me. Because they talked about Shooter as being like a walking
The most
Calvin
handsome
Klein
man
ad. Yeah.
on earth. I was very confused by that.
So then I was like, so is the other guy like ugly or like let's talk about like just how not cute. Like
I felt like Benji was
Yeah.
actually cast perfectly because I was picturing someone with like lighter hair, fair skinned, like definitely handsome, but not like the most handsome man in any room, and like more attainable, if you will, but like someone who had like a very friendly face that you would want to be warm with. I think I've shared this in the podcast before, but like I really, unless I'm reading it for Jolly Cove, like I try not to like fan cast a lot of my books because I like to like imagine the characters in my head. I like to like create, use my
Yeah.
imagination. And so I feel like with this one, I truly like just imagined someone who looked so similar to him.
Oh,
That makes
okay.
sense. So I feel like that one was kind
Mhm.
of on the nose for me.
Well, that's really good.
That's
I just
good.
found our Benji to be like, I don't know what it was about him, but he gave me the ick in the show. I was just like, ooh,
Really?
you are the most unappealing man I've ever seen.
Not unappealing.
Wow.
Dang,
so
you went
sorry.
in.
Sophie, imagine he's listening to this podcast.
He's gonna be okay. He's got like, I'm sure he's fine. But yeah, I know. I thought he was like not it for Benji because he's supposed to be like the perfect guy, cookie cutter boyfriend, just kind of
Yeah.
like a very generic boyfriend, nice guy vibe.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was just like kind of weird, sketchy, a little slimy, questionable.
What?
I didn't think he was cute. It looked like his hair was like bleached. It was so weird. I don't know. It
Sophie,
didn't look
he was, like,
natural.
He was
I didn't love it
strawberry
either.
redhead.
I didn't vibe with it either. Mm-mm.
But I feel like in the book, like, you were supposed to know that, like, obviously he was not as handsome as Shooter, you know? Like, so I feel like if
But,
they had
like,
cast anyone else as Shooter, like, we probably would have been like, oh, he makes perfect sense for it. But in the context of what we were given,
wait, are you talking about Shooter or Benji?
Benji. Are y'all talking about Shooter now?
No, I'm talking about Benji
No,
still.
no, no. We're talking
Yeah.
about Benji.
That's what I'm saying is, like, I feel like Benji made less sense in as this character he was now because he was so much more handsome than Shooter. And in the book,
You
Shooter
think
is
so?
just
Wait,
You think
what?
Benji's cuter than Shooter?
No.
In the show?
Oh my gosh. That's why I was confused. I was like, are we saying this? Am I hearing the same? Like, no.
And she has a crush on this Benji. That's just what it is.
There's not, like, what? No.
I'm
That's
so
not
sorry,
how I was
but
picturing
Shooter
it.
is...
all for Shooter.
Okay, this isn't who I was picturing for Shooter either, but he is miles cuter than Benji in the show.
100%.
Like,
100%.
not even a question.
Not what we were expecting, but like,
Difference of
come
opinions.
on.
I'm crying. That's so funny.
I'm unwell. That was a
That's why
crazy
y'all were so
revelation.
confused.
That was a big twist.
We were like,
We're like,
huh?
who? It's really funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's move to Shooter then. Do we have any ideas for who you would rather see play Shooter?
Like, I was
Yes.
expecting an Austin Butler, not like an Indian prince, but we got the Indian prince and I vibed with it. Like, he was very likable, and
Yeah.
I like it. I think I was fine with it, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. Same with all the other characters.
Yeah.
They also made him literally an Indian prince, so he had like all this money, which in the
Changed the
book
storyline
he
completely.
doesn't have
so
money, or like not as much.
100%.
So that was
Yeah.
confusing.
I was just picturing someone who was like more like cut. You know what I mean? Like someone who was a little more like a bigger personality, because they talked about this guy being someone who, you know,
True.
was taking people to Vegas, taking people to all these shows, like that he was the life
True.
of the party, that he like
Yeah.
lit up every room. And I was picturing like someone who was almost larger than life. And so
Totally.
whenever I saw him, I was like, huh?
Heh. Yeah, no. They rewrote this character
Completely.
to be completely a different person. Like, different storylines, different vibes, different personality, just like the same name, which was very frustrating. I feel like they rewrote a lot of the characters because they wanted to cast certain people and like they could get certain people. Because I heard that this actor, sorry, I don't know his name, but Shooter in real life is like a huge deal in Bollywood. Like, he's a huge star in India.
Okay.
So that was like a big draw for them wanting to get him. And I feel like the dance scene they wanted to do for like Bollywood, like for real. Because
Freaking love the dance scene.
why else? Anyway,
Did you guys cast the parents?
no, but please tell us.
Oh, I feel like I had good ones. Okay. For Karen and Bruce, okay, get ready, because this is like who I thought. Bruce was like so likable and like in the book, and so like kind and funny, and like just like very involved in the daughter's life. Paul Rudd.
Oh my gosh, that's actually perfect. And I can see
Like,
him
I
being
felt
like a little fashion-y guy too.
Yeah, like a little fashion-y guy. They were saying he was too short to be a model, but like could have been.
No, because like I would. Is he that old?
Paul Rudd
Where do you
age.
think
He's
so?
55.
Stop.
Technically,
no,
he could
he's
have
not.
a 24-year-old.
He could have a child.
No,
yeah.
I just mean like there's no way he's that. I'm like I'm. When
He's-
did we grow up, y'all?
He's my mom's
And
age.
then-
No, he's not.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah.
I would be like, oh no, put him as like Shooter or like Benji something. Like I'm not thinking about him as like a parent.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh.
I love him. Oh, that's really funny.
And then for the mom, for Karen, this is a little out of budget, I think, for the show, because they already have Nicole Kidman. I think like one A-lister is enough. But I had Julia Roberts. Like, can you not
That's
see
good.
Julia Roberts as like a cancer patient? Like, just
Yeah.
being like the sweetest, best mom in the world. Like, I don't know. I can see it.
When we were watching the show, Wesley was like, oh wait, she's supposed to be sick, because they didn't make her look very ill. And like I was like, no, in the book, like the reason they moved at the wedding is like this woman was like dying. Like I thought they were going to make her very gaunt, very like evident that this woman is like running out of time, and they did not.
It really was so upsetting the way that they disrespected the parents in this way.
I know.
Like
They had so much
changed
I was
screen
them so
time in
expecting
the book.
Paul Rudd, and I got that guy who is not like
Billy Bob.
He didn't care about his fashion.
Literally,
Like, he didn't.
he was not a fashionista. He was not like this
We needed
fitness
someone who
guy.
also was maybe like could go. I'm not saying this insensitively, but in the book we learned that he did have a side of him that he did like men, and so I thought maybe we were going to get someone who was a little more giving that
Flamboyant.
energy.
A little
Yes,
None of
someone a
that.
little more
sparkle.
flamboyant is a beautiful way to put it, and we did not get
Yeah.
that. Like, I cannot picture
No.
that man having a crush on a boy.
They took that out of the book too, like that whole storyline, which was kind of sad because I don't know. I love
That was the biggest shock for me of the whole book. I was literally
my
left like
gosh.
the part that he turns out to have like had this crush on the male coworker. I was like, that was massive. And
yeah, it was a big thing.
just like I feel like that added so much. And
It added
that
so
was
much
shocking.
depth. And that's the beauty of
Mhm.
Elin Hilderbrand is like she will give you stuff like that for these characters. That's like you feel like you know them so well, and she writes them so richly. And we should have known that they were never going to be able to do that on a screen. Anyone but Nancy
Yeah.
Myers couldn't
I
have done that
know.
on a screen.
Ugh.
These characters were giving all one dimensional. They were giving so flat, except for Greer.
Except for Greer. She
Except
was
for Greer.
incredible.
She was amazing.
Greer
she
was so
carried that
good.
whole show. I
Mhm.
think
She
if
really
I
on her
did
back.
recast her, I think I would probably put Jennifer Aniston in that role.
Oh, I
I
can see
think
that
Jennifer
too.
Aniston could play her
But
well,
she's
but
so
I think
nice.
that
No, but if you see her in other shows, she did
yeah.
like on the morning show. She's like
Oh,
not
she's
the
a
nicest
spitfire.
lady. She's
Okay.
yeah, that I could see
So,
that.
I think she could have done a good job too, but I feel like Nicole Kidman just like absolutely don't think I could have picked anyone better than her.
yeah. I think she was the absolute perfect casting, and she was like such an anchor of the show, and like
yes.
obviously was a huge star of the show, which was great because in the book she wasn't that like she was a big character in the book, but she wasn't as dynamic as she is in the show, which I really enjoyed. I was like, oh, she's got way more to her,
100%.
and it makes way more sense. She's not just like a cold-hearted mother-in-law.
She was one of those people you could tell she just really wanted to protect her family, but she also had like such a tender side to her that like, you know, she really felt for Celeste and like really I think wanted to make it work between she and Benji. And like I feel like Greer just in the show just seemed like she hated whatever her Amelia's guts, and that felt very like, oh, I didn't really get that vibe from you. Like I know you were colder but not like hateful. I also her wig was like kind of all over the place in some of the episodes, and that was like
what was the point of the wig? Like she has blonde hair in real life.
I was like she could have done her hair. And also they talked about the fact that like Greer always wore her hair in like either a tight bun at the bottom or like in a bun at the back of her head. I'm like, you could have put this woman in a bun the whole time and it would have been perfect.
Yeah. Her wig definitely threw me off too. I was like, this looks like such a fake wig.
It looked so fake. It was not giving.
Other than that, I thought she was great. I thought Tag was perfect. Like he really brought Tag to life for me. Liev Schreiber, whatever his name is. He was iconic. Like so funny.
So good.
He made
so
Tag
good.
better for sure. I thought he was way better portrayed in the show than he was in the book.
Agreed.
He was great.
He humanized him a little bit.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100%.
I loved it. What do we think about Abby?
Oh, the star of the show.
She was
literally
perfect.
She was next to Greer, like Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
Dakota Fan. There was some scenes, just like one-liners that she said that I literally had to go back and rewatch because I was like, this was too powerful. Like when she in one of the scenes when she gets a call from Greer, gets a call from her brother, and she answers the phone. And she's like, and who is this? And can I shout in a room that you're calling while she's with her husband? And she's like, oh, I can't. Like, it was just so funny.
She was so good.
She was seriously perfect. I have no notes for her. She was hilarious. She's great.
When she does the skincare thing and she's there like putting on the skincare, she's like, it's from my roommate from college's mom who's a skincare magnet in Asia.
In Korea. And she gets all these illegal ingredients.
And then Celeste is just like, okay. Like,
okay, sure.
I loved her.
So
she
good.
was phenomenal.
Okay, Thomas.
I did not like him, period. In the show, he was just so much worse.
Yeah.
His character casting was fine. He was supposed to be more handsome than Benji though. And so I was a bit confused. Like, I thought he was going to be more handsome.
He was more. Let's skip. Let's move on. We just have to agree to disagree.
I can't believe how you think Benji's so cute. I'm so happy for him that he has a fan.
I am
If
literally
he has
could
no
not be
fans,
happier for him.
I'm dead. He has one fan, it's me.
Oh my gosh.
No, I think they did a great job with Thomas.
Yeah.
Because he was so unlikable. That was the point.
Which was the point.
So
yeah.
true.
You're supposed to hate his guts, and like he's the most hateable, like punchable face you've ever seen.
Yeah.
That scene with the cake with him,
yeah.
My blood was boiling. Like it was perfect. And there is Dakota Fanning like licking the cake. I was just like, I am livid.
She was eating. She was absolutely eating.
That scene was out of control. What would you guys do though? Like, would you let them eat the cake? Like, why not? No, like it's not gonna get.
He was just going
go
through it. I think the point of it was that he was like trying to. Everything was falling apart and sliding out of his hands, and like his future. He could tell that his future with Celeste was like going down the drain. I think he was trying to salvage what he could, and so I think symbolically, like saving the cake was like holding on to something he could control.
Yeah, totally.
And they just did not help.
They did not care.
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
Okay, Featherly Dale / Isabel. So I don't know if I sent this to you guys, but I saw somewhere that Isabel, the lady who they cast, her name in real life is like Isabel Adjani or something. Sorry if I'm butchering that. And she's like an icon in France. She's like very famous over there. She's like an actress, singer, icon. Like people are obsessed with her. And so they rewrote the character of Featherly for her because she said yes to the role or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I was not very happy about. We needed Jennifer Coolidge as Featherly. Like that's what we deserved.
Yes.
Right?
That would have been 100%.
I know.
Yeah.
And this was just so different.
I didn't hate it though. I felt like it worked, and I felt like she brought like an interesting element. With how much else they changed, why not change this other character too? In an ideal world, 100%. Jennifer Coolidge would have crushed it.
I know. It wouldn't make sense. I can't see like Thomas hooking up with Jennifer Coolidge.
I just couldn't see couldn't see the hooking up part. Like it was hard to see it with Isabel, and it was hard to imagine it if it were
I think also she was
Jennifer
described
Coolidge.
as like a little more like truly glamorous. And I feel like Isabel actually, if they'd kept her name as Featherington Dale, they'd kept her the same. Oh my gosh, hello.
I love Featherington.
If they'd kept her name and character the same, I actually would have loved to see this actor in that role, even if they just made her French and like kept her character similar.
Yeah,
I think
she
still
should
would
have
crushed
been like. She's supposed to just be like loosey goosey, like kind of very tacky out there. This one, she's just like this very like. Well, she's still a little crazy. But
I kind of got her still like loosey goosey, a bit tacky when she's talking about like why women kill, and she's like, women don't kill for money, like that's stupid. They kill for power and like all of that stuff. I was like, that was when I was like, I need to rewind. Like that was really good.
Yeah, no, she was good. It was just like was a fully different character, which I just took a minute to adjust. My brain.
I think it just both book and show was hard for me to believe that Thomas would like get with that character. Like it was just hard. So weird. And like someone that his dad like used to like have something with, like it's just the whole thing. So it was like hard to watch it. And the scenes where they're like negotiating while in bed, like the whole thing was weird. It was hard to watch.
Yeah, agreed. They were yucky for sure. Okay, who else do we have to talk about? Chief.
I want to go with my same response for Chief Capanech that I had for Swan Song, because I still agree with him. But I also wouldn't mind the guy who they cast as the chief for him to be Ed Capanech. Do you think that they changed his name and stuff because they are going to do something else with the movie or show with him in it?
So Ellen said that they changed it because for legal reasons, because Chief Capanech appears in so many of her other books that they're not allowed. So I don't know, because they would have to pay so much money to use his name and likeness if they're going to be other adaptations in the future that can't use his name and likeness going forward. I don't know how that works.
I was getting the vibe that maybe it was because they're going to be adapting another book that he's in, and she like he's already legally cast in something else.
I hope that's the case. Okay, for Chief Capanash, I finally have my perfect casting because at last, I don't know what I said in the last for Swan Song, what I said for him, but I changed my mind for whatever I chose because this is my perfect Ed Capanash. Sorry, I'm pulling up the photo. I took a screenshot of it a minute ago. Tom Selleck.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
I'm showing
Yeah.
the YouTube. He's got a mustache. He's just like
Chief
big,
Captain
burly.
detective.
100%.
Oh, I think he would just be perfect. Were you guys mad about the Greek not being in the show?
At first I was, because I feel like, again, the way they did it in the book with him being the one to interview the ladies and like that being his looks and him being so handsome and a Greek like played such a big role in that. But then once I saw how they did it in the movie, like I actually really liked who they had. I feel like that was a nice swap.
Yeah, I'm glad they still called her Nikki. I thought that was like a cute
I thought that
nod
was
to
cute
him.
too. I liked that. And I feel like she did such a good job, and she was like really the hard hitter detective, and like almost obviously like in the book it was giving very like, oh, tell me about this, like not super like, but in the movie and I feel like and based on the ending of the movie, I feel like we needed a detective who was more hardcore. You know what I mean? Because like in the other, it was in the book, it was like accidental, obviously, and so for it to be different in the movie, I feel like we needed to have like a more hardcore detective.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I liked she brought like a lot of comedic relief, and she was great. But at first in the first episode, I was like, who is this woman? What is happening? I really wanted to see the Greek, but it made sense, and I really liked her. Okay, I feel like that's all the characters besides the housekeeper. Gosha, I thought she was really funny.
I liked her a lot.
I loved her relationship with Tag. She was like obsessed with him, and that was really funny. But it did feel like they were like trying to force her to be like the next Dorota. Remember from Gossip Girl?
No, she was literally giving Dorota.
Yeah, she was giving Dorota, but they could never replicate my queen Dorota.
Like 100%.
But they tried. They tried really hard. But does she end up with Tag? That's my question.
No.
Because in like the final scenes, she's like serving him and it's just them in the house. And I'm like, wait.
No, he gives her like a blunt and she like takes it from him.
She like takes a hit. I don't think she's going to end up with him. I think it was like giving that they will always have like an alliance in that house, like no matter what.
I think they end up together. I'm just going to say I want them to end up together.
You want them to?
Yeah. I think that's cute.
Okay.
Thoughts on the intro dance scene?
This is a never skip. A never skip.
Obsessed. We never skipped it. There's this TikTok and it talks about like the first scene, the first time you watch it. Did y'all watch the TikTok?
Yes, I was crying. It was so funny.
Basically
to
the TikTok
stories.
Yeah, Soph will post it. But essentially it's like the first time you watch the scene, it's like, is this a musical? Like I'm confused. And the second time it's like, I'm sure. By the third time it's like, wait, don't skip it. The fourth time it's like, should we learn the dance? Like that was fully Wesley. Wesley loved the opening credits. Like this man, every time it came on was like, real lives,
Josh too.
What is it with these boys and loving this? And so because not that I was against skipping it, but he like every time I was like, oh, I love the intro. He said it was so aesthetic, it like scratched an itch in his brain. Like it was very satisfying to watch it. I was like, that's so true.
Iconic.
I'm trying to learn it.
And it was giving Love Island, to be honest.
It was
like,
giving
I was
Bollywood.
Just like, this is it for me. Obsessed. I think they did it like thinking that because right now like the dances on TikTok are becoming so popular. Well, they've been so popular. Like for example, when like the Twisters movie came out, like everyone was doing little dances and things like that. Like the cast was trying to get people to follow along. The movies are trying to like lean in
desperately to make a TikTok moment.
And so I think that's why they were like, oh, this is perfect. Like it's a wedding party, like the perfect place we could do this dance. And then maybe it takes off on TikTok and people have been doing it. So I think it was cute.
It's so fun. The song too is so catchy. Like I found myself humming it for days.
Did you guys know that?
I loved it.
A Meghan Trainor original. She like made it for the show.
And she grew up.
And she grew up in Nantucket. So it's like very full circle. Isn't that so cute?
Cool.
That is so cute. That's adorable.
I love that little fun fact. I thought it was great. Obviously it's cringy. Like the first time you see, you're like, what is happening? But then like you gotta embrace Embrace the
I love
cringe.
how Nicole Kidman says in an interview, she's like, no, like I didn't want to do this. I told them absolutely not. I was not here for it. But then they forced me and I did it like as the character. She's like, I hope you
Yeah.
know that when
That's
I'm
so
dancing, I'm
funny.
dancing as Greer, not as myself.
In the
so
same
good.
interview, the guy who plays Tag, I can't remember his name, he's fully like, I loved it. Like, I love the dance. I love learning it. I'm sad I didn't get more screen time of my dance because I killed it.
That's
That
so
would be
good.
Tag. Okay, are we team Benji or Shooter? And does it change for the book versus the show? Like, who would you rather her end up with? I feel like I know SG's answer.
In the book, I was team Shooter all the way.
Okay.
Fully team Shooter. I feel like she deserved to be
Same.
happy. I feel like too, not to get too deep, but I feel like she had some undiagnosed OCD and the feeling of like, okay, well, if I do this, like my mom went in cancer and do this. And that's like very OCD thought mapping behavior.
Yeah, that was a big thing in the book,
And
wasn't it?
I really related to that as someone who does struggle with OCD and like obsessive compulsive thoughts. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I understand that, and I really deeply like related to her in that. Not that I've ever thought, you know, if I don't marry my husband, but like, you know, just like thinking
Yeah.
cause and effect, just like intrusive thoughts that like tell you these things.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so
she was like, Merritt died because I didn't, because I'm going to go with the shooter. The
yeah,
second I decided to go with shooter, she died. And like, that's my fault.
yeah.
That was a
And
big thing in the
so
book.
that's an intrusive thought. Like that's exactly what it is. I literally I finished reading it and I told Leslie, I was like, I think she has undiagnosed OCD. And so I really related to her on that, and I really just hope that she could get her happiness and know that like her happiness and her actions in that way are not going to affect others. And then in the
Yeah.
movie, I was hoping she would stay with Benji.
Okay. I wanted her to end up with shooter in the book, of course. In the show, I didn't care. Like, it was so like their relationship, her and shooter's relationship was like so blah in the show that I was like, you guys aren't meant to be. And same with Benji. I was just kind of like, this is a toxic, weird vibe. You just need to get out of there. Which she did. She ended up by herself, I guess. I don't know who she ended up with in the end, but she was in London at the zoo. Kind of random.
I think I was also team shooter just because like I think there was a question that somebody asked in the book that I think it's Benji asking. It says, how can she love Shooter Uxley if she had only spent one day with him? I don't know who asked that, but I wrote it down because I thought it was like a really interesting message to unpack of how you can love someone in 24 hours, 48 hours, like a week, and it be more powerful than a relationship you already have for, I think they had been dating for 4 years or something. I don't know how long she and
Yeah, I
Benji had
don't
been
know.
together. I thought that was an interesting like question that they pose, just to show you that like relationships have a lot more, like timing doesn't really have a lot to do with the depth of a relationship. It's just like the connection.
Yes, so true.
But I agree. Like, I think that she deserves happiness, and she found that with Shooter. Although in in the show, I felt like I had more sympathy for Benji, especially in the kitchen scene
Yeah.
where he gets so drunk at the book launch and then they go behind the scenes to the kitchen. I thought that scene was really interesting, and I liked that they kept that in because it kind of showed that both she and Benji like cared deeply for each other on a friendship level. Um Even with everything she had done and like finding out that she was cheating on him with his best friend, like at the end of the day, like their friendship was so strong that they still cared about each other. And he's like making jokes and she wants to take care of him. And then she's like, I need to get you home. I don't want you to embarrass yourself. And then they end up like hooking up in the kitchen. Like you could just tell that there's like a lot of feelings there, and like at the end of all of it they're still like caring for each other, which I thought was like good
Yeah.
that they displayed that, because you end up feeling for him, where in the book like I didn't really feel for Benji. I was just like, she needs to get out of there, like
Yeah, I hated the scene where he's all drunk and that was just like so painful to watch them like hooking up when he's drunk like that. I was just like, "Ooh." We actually fast forwarded that because I was watching it with my mom and my husband. I was like, gotta go. We're gonna fast forward right through this. But yeah, I didn't like that. But I didn't like any of Benji's scenes. I was just like, oh, get this man off my screen. He's not.
I don't like that she immediately went and told Shooter, like, I hooked up with Benji in the kitchen at the book launch. And
What
I
was
was
the
just
point of
like,
that?
what was the point of that? Like, why do you owe him anything? Well, I guess she feels like she owes him something because they have a relationship, but like, this is your fiance. Like, you're still together. Like, you're attending his mom's book launch. Like, because you're still involved with the family. Like, I don't think she needed to say anything to him. And it was almost like she was saying it because she wanted to hurt him. But then I was like,
What did he do
I
to
don't
you?
understand. Like, what's the point here? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there obviously were so many changes from the book to the show, as we've discussed many of them already. But what was like one of the biggest things that was in the book that they left out of the show that you like missed the most? I have like quite a few actually to note.
Same. I feel like the biggest one was the whole, like, many things with her relationship with Shooter. Like, in the book,
Yes.
she doesn't allow anything to happen with Shooter, at least, like, I think physically. Like, I remember a scene where he arrives at her apartment in New York and she kind of has to, like, push him out of the apartment. She's like, we can't do
Yeah.
this. She doesn't want to, like, cheat on her fiance. And I think, but like, the love is there. She does want to elope with him and run off with him. And I think that added a little bit of like credentials to the relationship. Like, how deep their connection is and that she's really trying her best not to be like disrespectful. And so that change in the show, like, the whole Shooter relationship was really downplayed in the show. I don't think they say like I love you at all in the show, whereas in the book, like, that's like a constant thing that he's telling her how much he cares for her.
Yeah, he like slid the note under her door saying like just in
That
case you
was
have any doubts,
iconic.
I'm in love
Absolutely
with you.
iconic.
That was everything.
There
Yeah.
was a lot of romantic, cutesy pieces to the relationship that were just totally skipped in this show that I think I really missed out on. That was, I think, the most excited. Like, I was the most excited for the Shooter relationship, and
Yeah, and we
that
got
didn't
like
come to
nothing.
fruition. Also, when she in the book, when she describes, it's like a movie. She describes the scene. That was my
Yeah,
favorite part of the book.
me too. I have
Every
the exact same
single
thing.
scene leading up to, like, or of those 24 hours, 48 hours that she's with Shooter before Benji arrives, like, the way that that's written was like a scene
The
by scene
chicken box,
montage.
like
I
it was
love that.
summer.
100%.
First of all, it was summertime, not the dead of winter. They're
Yeah.
like so cute. They go to the chicken
Yeah.
box, they dance,
Mhm.
they do that like the tidal pool, whatever, like the natural water slide
Yeah.
thing.
Yes.
That would have been so magical
So
to watch
cool.
on a
I know.
screen.
I
And
feel
so
like
we
we
got
got
them like
robbed.
randomly skinny dipping
Skinny
in the
dipping.
freezing ocean, like so out of context, so out of the blue. I was like, what is going
That's
on?
the whole reason, like, we as readers, like, fall in love with Shooter, because otherwise you're just
Yeah.
like, this is a scandalous affair. And so I thought that iconic montage in the book was going to be exactly the same. I was like, they would have to be kidding, like, if they don't do it just like this, because she says it
know.
like it was like a movie, whatever. And so that was a big difference. And then another thing with Shooter that I wanted to, like, I noted because I wanted to ask you all what you thought about it. So the whole, like, girl from the train narrative, like, she is so weird about it in the show.
Oh,
And she's like,
yeah.
and he's like, you're the woman that
The
dropped
B
the
train.
like, the woman on the B train, like, that dropped her beads, and you're the girl that helped me, the only other person that helped me pick them up. Like, I didn't get the point of this besides the fact that they're just trying to share something to show you, like, oh, she's different, she's unique. Like, all these people on the train are just
Yeah.
like so self-absorbed and not thinking about others, whereas these two are clearly different and unique because they do this. But I thought, like, I was like, there's
Where
other
was this?
ways that
I'm
you can
like
get that
very confused. I
across
don't remember
besides that.
this.
That was
They
in the
mention
show.
it so many times. Like, it was
Yeah. The
weird.
girl from the B train, and like she's in his phone as B train. Because like they had randomly come across each other on the B train in New York. Yeah, this was
That's
like
how they say
thing
that.
in the show.
I must have gone to the bathroom or something during this scene.
That's how they
What?
said that Amelia, Celeste, and Shooter met in real life. Like they actually and I think that was them like grasping at trying to make it like a faded love, like deep, meaningful
Yeah.
connection, because like they happened to meet each other on the train, and she was the only kind soul on the train to like help him pick up the garbage that fell, whatever. It was
But it
really
was so bizarre
silly.
because it's like, why do you have her number as girl from the B train? Like, did you give him your number when you were on the train? Like, that confused me. I was like, was there more to the story? And I thought they were going to, at the end, they were going to wrap it up and tell us like something crazy that happened and they spent the day together, because she's so weird about it when they're on the private jet, like flying there. And he tells her this and she's like, no.
She like doesn't remember,
like,
or she's
I
just
don't
weird.
remember. Like, she's just being so weird. And I was like, why are you being weird about this? Like, and then at the end, she's like, yeah, it was me. And I'm like, is there more? Like, why were we being so sketchy about it?
Ugh, I didn't like
Strange.
it. But it makes sense that they changed their love story, because they changed her whole storyline of like they weren't even going to be running off together. Like at the beginning of the book, you know that she's about to run off from the wedding.
I was
Shooter.
trying to
like,
explain that to Wesley. I was like, they literally, the reason he was like, I don't understand why he was on the run. Like, I don't understand. I was like, because they literally left out like the whole plot about them doing that and about them going out the night before. Like, there was so much that I feel like was essential to their storyline that got left out, to the point where in the show, I think I touched on this already, it didn't make any sense why they put them together. It didn't make any sense why they were like in love or whatever.
Totally. It was like a random affair because
they were not
Amelia
soulmates
like
in the show by any means.
No. Which was sad, because that was like one of the best parts of the book.
Another thing that was like very different that was interesting was that not only was Tom having an affair with Featherly Dale / Isabel, but like in the show, he owes her $2.5 million.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this is weird. And that was such a huge part of the investigation and why they thought it was
the trust
her.
fund. Yeah.
And the trust fund. And that's why they added the additional brother. Because I was like, why did they add an extra brother? Like, that was a big change.
Random. Yeah.
But then I got why they did it. It was because they needed him to be 18, and so that everyone's like excited for the money to be released, and then she gets pregnant. Like, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that made sense, and I actually really liked that addition. I didn't like the little brother's character. Like, I thought he was so annoying, but for the storyline, it made sense.
One of the things that I was sad that they left out is her stutter. Because her stutter gave you like the impression that she really did not want to marry Benji. And I feel like I'm really sad they left out all the New York aspects of the book, because I feel like that just gave so much backstory. But the stutter I feel like was so key and essential. Also, wasn't the whole family like low-key supposed to be British?
Yes. Greer I was like, obviously is British. Tag they're all from London.
They were all from London. I was like, where are their accents at? I feel like that again added a layer to it that we just didn't get in the show.
Yeah, and it's weird because in the book it's all Greer's money, like that's where all their money comes from her family. But then in this one, they obviously made it Tag so that she could be a prostitute,
an escort. I literally said hello, an escort ? Question mark. Wasn't her family the ones with all the money? Because that was part of the thing. Is like Tag felt like he had. Is it called like a chip on your shoulder when you feel like you have something to prove?
Yeah,
like that was part of like his kind of
Tag in the book.
Boyish arrogance, was that he was embarrassed low key that all of their money was Greer's family money, and so it's like, what the heck?
I felt like they added that whole layer of the escort because they were trying to like give her some background as to why she cares so much about like appearances and money, and like, and why that's the only thing I could think of. Why she's so protective of Tag, of the family, because she thinks of like, this is how I like what my roots were, and I never want to go back there. So I will do anything to ensure that like me and my family never have to be in a situation like that. I think
just
like
that scandal doesn't come out, that her readers would find out that she was an escort. Like that's what she was afraid of, her image getting
it was like
ruined.
So many things, but I don't know if it was needed.
I don't think it was needed because
why they added it.
I loved it. I thought it was needed.
I did not think it was needed at all. I didn't like that it wasn't. I liked the fact that the money came from her side of the family, because it gave an element to Tag of why he would have the affair. Like a lot of times, like old money, like they just have that deep desire to protect the family image. And so I didn't feel like the extra was needed. I think they could have done just fine with her just caring deeply about her family's image.
The whole addition of like Greer's history, being a high-end escort, yada yada, and her brother Broderick. I loved all of that. I know a lot of people didn't like it and they were like, what is the point of this brother? I thought it added so much like comedic relief, so much extra tea drama. I thought it was hilarious. Like the
I
show's
agree
already
about the
so
comedic
over the
relief.
top. Yeah, the show was so like over the top and so many like jaw-dropping moments that I was like, here's another one. This is great. I love it. And I kind of like that it made it make sense why Greer was staying with Tag. Like this guy is so obnoxious and disgusting and like slimy. Like what is going on? Like why can't you just leave? You're better than this and you have your own money. Like get out of there.
100%.
And that made it make sense a little bit. And then it also made sense because it's like she was upholding this image until he went and ruined it for her at the book launch. And by the way, that was like
that scene.
That was my favorite scene.
That was his
ever.
Oh my god!
Him on the stage, just like tearing their life apart.
That was
not part of the book at all, right? There was no book launch. It was so funny, and she turns him over to the police.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So that he doesn't show up at the book launch, and then he does.
100%.
So drunk, so crazy. And then it was like, okay, so he tore down their reputation anyway in front of the whole world and it's on the internet now. So like now I've got my out. I can leave. Might as well just come clean to everybody and move forward with my life. And that was kind of like, I don't know, poetic. I loved it. I thought it was great. It was so funny.
I did enjoy that they did stuff after the wedding because, you know, in the book it's kind of like takes place over those 2 days and then we get nothing else after that. There's no like life after the wedding. It's like everyone's being questioned or they're just at the house. And so I thought that was so cool that we got to see more of like their life post wedding or apart from the wedding since we didn't get a ton of pre-story from them.
Yeah. Were there any other like big things that I missed from the book to the movie?
Well, the difference in the death of Merritt, but I know we're going to talk about that next.
Okay, let's talk about that. So, which ending did you prefer? Book or movie? Accident or on purpose?
I thought the accident in the book was very poetic and it was beautifully written. In fact, after we finished the show, I read the last 2 chapters to Wesley because I was like, I think you need to understand like,
oh, that's a good idea,
how this happened here because I think that will kind of understand why this feels so different. But I feel like someone made a point of this on a TikTok and I completely agree. Dakota Fanning was not going to take the role of not being like the cold-hearted killer. And so I feel like that fit her version of Abby so well. And I feel like I liked that for the show. But I thought that in the book, also like it's an Elin Hilderbrand book. And in an Elin Hilderbrand book, like you're not going to have someone who's doing like a murder in cold blood. And in Netflix, you're not going to have a murder not in cold blood. So I feel like both fit perfectly for their designated mediums.
Yeah, that's said very beautifully.
Yeah, I love that you said that it was like very poetic because I have the same thing written down in my notes that like I loved the book ending because I felt like it almost romanticized like an accidental drowning and somehow
100%.
did it in a really dreamy way. Like I remember when I read that chapter, I could vividly imagine like her staring at the ring underwater and reaching for it. Like have you guys been obviously to Mickey's PhilharMagic? You know the Little Mermaid when she comes out and she's like reaches in 3D at the audience to grab like one of the floating gems. Literally it was that. I could see like Merritt in the water reaching for the ring. The ring is glistening, like the water's glistening, her hair is floating like a H2O like clear.
100%.
And then like everything gets foggy and then it fades to black and then that's the end. Like I pictured it so gorgeous and I was so excited to see how they did that on screen. Like I could just imagine like underwater camera, like, and they did that, but they just like did, it was like her screaming and drowning. It was violent and it wasn't giving like the dreamy, like mermaid-esque death, slow, like peaceful death that I had imagined. So I liked the twist in the show because it did make it unpredictable for the readers that like had something in their mind. But I also really like I felt like the ending was like the most beautiful death I've ever read. So I don't know.
Yeah, and it was sweet because she was like reaching for this ring because she's like, I always want my child to have something from their father, and like
Yeah.
That's why it was so important. And it was actually,
And the
it was
quote
truly
too.
poetic.
The quote was so iconic. She says like, I reached out for the ring, but just like love, it was always
just
out of reach.
Just out of reach.
Like,
Why do I have chills?
chills. Literally, I read it and I was like this. And then it's like, thank you for reading The
Yeah.
Perfect Couple. And I was like,
On your Audible.
yeah.
I know.
Like
it was a
jaw
really,
dropped.
really, really good ending of the book. And it made it very, like you said, poetic, like very literary, made you think a lot more. But Netflix is just going to give you the cold, hard facts, and they're going to give you more drama. They're going to give you more
100%.
Yeah, there's more drama for sure.
Obviously, this is after that, but the ending scene, I love a scene when it's like a one take, a pan. So the way that they did the last shot in the show after Abby's been arrested, and it's like one shot of people walking around the house, like that type of cinematography.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Talk about scratching an itch. Like that was a 1,000,000 out of 10.
So satisfying seeing her get taken in. Yeah, I loved both endings, but I did think that the show ending was just so much more satisfying because she gets done for. And in the book, you're just like, oh, I guess we'll never know what happens. Like the cops don't know. And Dakota was just incredible.
So good.
Can you believe her belly was fake? I thought for sure. I'm like, surely she's actually pregnant.
Real. I looked it up
too.
because it looks so real.
I couldn't believe it. That's a prosthetic.
In her
I'm
bikini,
like, how?
like it was crazy.
I know.
Prosthetics are insane.
Wild. What did you think about the difference between the book and the show for Celeste/Amelia's endings? Because obviously in the show, she ends up just like at the zoo in London randomly with no boyfriend, no fiance, no husband that we know of. And in the book, we are led to believe that she ends up with Shooter, which is like, thank you. That's what we needed. But it didn't make sense for the show.
I feel like for the show, the fact she ended up in London when this family is supposed to have all been from London was even odder. I was like,
yeah.
What? Like, then they would have all been, like, I don't know. That felt very random, very like, because Wesley was asking, he was like, oh, like, is this at all? I was like, no, it felt very odd, especially, it felt even more random because it had nothing to do with the book. It's like, why do an after if it's not important to the book or like the actual storyline? And I thought it didn't either. I liked the ending in the book, though. I liked that she and Shooter ended up together.
Same.
I liked the ending in the book as well. I think what I did like about the alternate ending here is I like that they gave some closure to the relationship with Greer and Celeste and Amelia, because
Agreed.
I feel like in the book you have so much context as to why Greer is so like unwelcoming, cold, just like you have more of an understanding towards Amelia, but then in the show she does come off cold and unwelcoming, but there's not as much backstory. So I like that they used her Celeste to go, or they used Greer going to the zoo to visit Amelia and kind of provide some closure and more context as to why she was like that. And I think ultimately it was because like she didn't have a great relationship with her family, with her sons. Therefore, when the son gets married, she was really insecure and felt like he was getting taken away from Amelia. And plus, Amelia is someone that's like the opposite of Greer. So Greer was like threatened by her, and then she didn't go along with anything that Greer said. She was like the opposite. So I think in the book we get a lot of instances where we see this, and in the show we don't. So I liked that she went to the zoo and kind of like had this conversation. It was like, you know what, like I was jealous of you, and that's like where my behavior came from, and you inspired me to write this book, because at the end of the day, like I am inspired. I guess she was like inspired by her, like that's why she wrote this book about her. So I thought that made a lot of sense. It like it also humanized Greer, because you realize like she puts off on this persona of like having it all together, yet everything's falling apart, and her literal daughter-in-law is like a threat to her and is like also an inspiration. Like it's very weird.
This is kind of related but kind of unrelated. I think my favorite Greer quote from the movie was when she was talking about, he thought you walked on water, but now you're tethered to terra firma just like the rest of us. I think that is like the thing that most taps into her insecurity with Amelia.
Yeah.
Is it with Isabel? I don't know if it was the show or the book, but Isabel / Featherly Dale basically makes a comment about how Greer is threatened by her because she has a voice and she has opinions. And she's
Oh.
like, women that have never been comfortable like being themselves or like sharing their like truth and have always like cared so much about pleasing the world around them and care more about like appearances, things like that, are jealous of people that have the freedom to speak their mind. And she was like, therefore, she doesn't like that about you. So I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting because that gave us some insight also as to like what specifically was like a reason for her dislike of Amelia.
Interesting. Yeah. That makes sense. We're going to try to do like a little bit of a rapid fire round for the last few questions. So, who were our favorite and least favorite characters?
In the movie, Greer was my favorite. In
Okay.
the book, Shooter was my favorite.
Ooh, okay. And least favorite?
Least favorite in the book, Tag. Least favorite in the show, the random little brother.
Okay. I would say favorite from the show, Tag and Abby. Like I had to choose both because they were just so fun to watch. Probably also Shooter from the book. I just like liked his story. Least favorite, Benji from the movie. He was just, or from the show. Ugh. I
Bye.
just didn't like him. I didn't like him.
I think my favorite in the book was probably Merritt. I feel like I really enjoyed reading about her. And my least favorite in the book. Wait, my favorite in the book was Merritt. My least favorite in the book was Greer. I think my favorite in the show was Abby. And my least favorite in the show was probably also Greer.
Really?
Not because of her acting. Like, I
Interesting.
think the acting was
Yeah.
insanely good.
Just the
But,
character.
like, I just didn't, like, it was such an unlikable character. Like, it was not. Yeah.
Wesley asked this about when we were watching it, asked if all the characters were supposed to be that unlikable in the show. He's like, I don't like a single one of these characters. And I was like, that's like a really good point. Because in the book, I feel like you were supposed to love like Shooter. You're supposed to really feel for Celeste and you're supposed to feel for the parents. So I thought that was interesting that like they truly wanted all these people to be so unbelievably unlikable in the show.
I feel like that's a
Gossip
trend.
Girl. Yeah.
That's like a trend with like Hollywood stuff. Like everything I watch lately, I'm just like, I don't like any of these people. And that's why I'm like not watching that much TV.
100%.
Because I'm just like, ugh, why can't we have anything like sweet?
Wholesome. I want some wholesome entertainment.
Yeah. Speaking of wholesome entertainment, what was our biggest cringe moment? And we can answer like for both book and show if you have answers for both.
From the show, it was the book launch. That was so great.
I think for the show, it was the Shooter and what's her face random kiss. I didn't feel like it was like giving in love and authentic, and I was like, I think it was just like one of those that the book did so well of giving their first kiss, and so the show like gave me the ick.
It was jarring, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest cringe was the family dinner scene where everything just goes. Yeah, it blows up.
I forgot about that.
The little brother's just like screaming profanities at the dad about the French tutor or whatever. It was bad.
That was horrible.
And Celeste is just like being crazy. She's just, or Amelia, whatever. She's just like going guns blazing, asking crazy questions at family dinner. I'm like, this is not the Celeste that we know from the book.
No, absolutely not.
That was really painful to watch. The funniest, I don't know about the book, but for the show, whenever Tag was like practicing his little speech, his statement about, I'm going to be going, I need help. I'm going to go to this rehab facility. And he's like holding his scotch in his hand while he's saying it. And they make him do it a bunch of times. They're like, no, not that place. The other place. He's like, oh, yeah.
That
like,
was
put the
hilarious.
scotch down while you
that
say
was a good
it.
scene.
I thought that was so good.
Scene.
I think that's probably my funniest scene too. It was such good comedic relief. I also thought that the book club scene, whenever Tag was like making a scene, like I thought that was really funny too, of him like airing out all of their laundry. And then when the band came in at the end and the balloons all fell.
That's what I had as funniest moment too.
Yeah.
The band coming in.
It was so out of control. It was so over the top. I loved it. Yeah, that is my favorite scene, which is like the whole book launch event, that whole thing.
For favorite scene for me, it was I really liked I thought the first scene of the show, I think it's like the very first scene where Amelia saves the ladybug and brings it outside in the little napkin in her bra. I felt like they were trying, well, it was like kind of weird, and I get where you're going with that, SG. I felt like it was an interesting piece that they would choose to put first because they were trying to emphasize her love for all creatures and like the fact that she didn't care about appearances or money, and that's why she came out in her bra, in contrast to Greer, who's standing outside like, what are you doing, why are you not wearing your bra, like. And
Yeah,
I
you
think
rogue.
that they had to do that because they couldn't put in so many of the zoo scenes and like showing us all of
I feel like
that.
one zoo scene would have accomplished the same thing, and it would have given us some actual background on her.
I would have
So
loved more zoo scenes. She was such an
while I
animal girl,
agree
and
with you,
they
I
cut
think
it all
like
out.
literally in the same amount of time they did that, they could have shown like a scene of her at the zoo, like loving on kids and doing like little snake talk. Like they could have done that so easily.
I think if she would have worn pajamas, like normal, cute matching set pajamas, and just ran out in her pajamas with a little ladybug on the napkin, it would have given the same effect. Like she's in her PJs in public. Like
100%.
she didn't need to be in the bra. I think that was
The
like
Yeah.
underwear
not
just
really
made
on
no
brand.
sense.
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me. But everything else, like I got what they were trying to do there, and I liked it. And the montage of Celeste and Shooter, oh my gosh, that was also like my top thing.
Yeah. I really didn't like this montage of Celeste and Shooter in the show.
No,
Because
in
it
the
was
book.
so,
In the
yeah,
book.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
In the
In the
show,
book,
it
that
was
was
just
my
like
favorite.
cold and dark
Yeah.
and damp and dingy. I'm like, what is this? Is so opposite of what we got in the book. This is so depressing. And the M&Ms, like, what are you doing? That had to have been a brand deal or something with Netflix. Because like, why?
It made no sense.
In the
I
book,
think they
they're
were trying
eating
to
like
show
this
that he's
delicious,
like
fancy.
normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're like raiding the fridge and they're like getting all the delicious stuff like from Bartlett Farms or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, we needed that, but oh well. Okay, do we have favorite quote for this book? I didn't write one down because I listened to it on audio and I
I
just
Oh my
did.
gosh, wait, I actually
Okay,
kind
good.
of forgot that I emailed myself some. Hold on.
Should I read it? Okay, I'll
Ooh,
start because my first
go
one is
Lisa.
it's a passage. Okay.
Okay.
She's a realist. Cancer has made her a realist. She has, for example, come to terms with the likelihood that Bruce will remarry. She wants him to. It won't be the same, she knows. He will always love her first, last, and best. The new wife will be younger, not as young as Celeste, Karen hopes, and she will add a new vitality to Bruce's life. Maybe the new wife will have a job that provides money for traveling, real traveling, national parks, cruises, bike tours of Europe. Maybe Bruce will take up a yoga class or a watercolor painting class. Maybe he'll learn to speak Italian. Karen can imagine these possibilities without jealousy or anger. That's how she knows it's her time to go.
Ooh. Yeah.
I read that and I was shocked.
Yeah.
Like it's really
that's
moving
powerful.
though that you can have so much love for someone and know that your journey on this earth is going to end, but like you truly want the best for them,
It's
For
including
them
your
to
selfless.
husband.
continue on.
And the best means like she can imagine him and she wants him to be in this happy relationship, and like that's how vivid it is in her mind. I was just like, wow. Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
good
true.
one.
100%.
That's really good.
I have 3, but they're very short. They're like one sentence each.
Okay.
One of them is, there is nothing more terrible, she's decided, than the ferocity with which humans can love.
Oh, I actually highlighted that on
Ooh.
my Kindle. It's so
Did
good.
you really?
I forgot. Yeah, I don't know why when I was writing this outline, I was like, I don't have a quote.
The other one was, she has been loved in her life, deeply and truly loved. She has been known and understood. Is there anything more she is supposed to want?
Oh, that's so
That's a good one.
SG, do you have a Swiftie soundtrack for this?
You know, this one was really tricky because I feel like we had so many different storylines that it was like really hard to come up with one good one for this.
Yeah.
I feel like the one that first came to mind when I was starting the book was like Speak Now, but from the perspective
Ooh.
of like Benji, you know, like because Benji like really wanted her to run away with him.
Shooter?
Oh my gosh. Yes, from the perspective of Shooter. because Shooter obviously was like deeply in love with her and like down to writing the letter and like all of that stuff. I also thought about Illicit Affairs because I feel
Really
like
good.
their song, I feel like that could apply to multiple characters within it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really feel like there was one song that just like stuck out to me. The other one, I know I already used it for Swan Song, but I feel like The Last Great American Dynasty could low-key also apply to this one.
Yes. No,
So I just
this needs a whole
feel-
album. It can't be
Absolutely. I
wrapped up with
also
one
feel
track.
like when we hear so much about Celeste's relationship with Karen, I was thinking about The Best Day from, I had the best day
Stop
with
it
you.
and cry.
So truly, I feel like there isn't one song, and if one does come to me, but like all of those popped into my head as I was reading the book. So this was
Really
one that
good.
needed multiple.
Okay, we've come to the end. We're about to wrap up, but first, let's rate this book and show. I think it'd be fun to like give a rating to each. So, what do you rate the book out of 5 stars? SG, you want to go first?
4.75.
Ooh, that's really high.
I loved it.
And then the show?
Show gets a solid 4 stars.
Okay. Isa?
I'm gonna give my first 5.
I cannot believe it. No way.
You said
Such
when you know
a big
you
day.
know. You guys always told me when you know you know, and
So
I was
happy.
like, I know.
Yeah. There's a special 5-star feeling.
100%.
I had the feeling.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So now are you so excited to read more Ellen books?
I'm so excited. I'm actually kind of sad that I wasn't on the Swan, like I couldn't be on the Swan Song
know.
episode, and I didn't read the book, but I have it because I downloaded it because I thought I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I need to read that. Ugh, it was so
Yeah.
good.
I want you to read 5-Star Weekend next. I think you would be obsessed with that one.
Agreed.
Oh my
I have
gosh.
so many
Okay, cool.
highlights in that book from like my own reading of like scenes of her descriptors and her illustrations of things because they were truly that captivating. And I wasn't even reading it for like this. I just wanted to highlight it to remember it for me.
It makes you like die to go to Nantucket. You're just
Yeah.
like starving for all the food that she's explaining in it. The fruit salad, SG, do
Oh
you
my
remember the
gosh,
5-star fruit
yes.
salad? Josh and I have made it so many times. It's like the best thing you've ever tasted. We've seriously made it like, we used to make it like every week. And last summer we did that. And then this summer we kind of dropped the ball. But it's
Okay.
unbelievable.
All right.
Life-changing.
I'll go
need to read this
dig my
book.
book out and write it
I
down.
also
the
want to
recipe.
read 28 Summers because the way you both
Yes.
described it, or Sophie, you described it, like
Yes.
I am dying to read that. And then I listened to a podcast because I've been like consuming all the Elin Hilderbrand content because I didn't know anything about her. So I listened to a bunch of podcasts she was on just talking about like not this book, but like talking about her life in general, just to get more
She's
context as
amazing.
to like why Nantucket.
You know, she has her own
like,
podcast, right?
No, I didn't know she had
Yes.
her own. I just heard once
Book,
she was
Speech,
guest
and
on and like
Beyond.
interviews.
Yeah,
I need
she's
to
got her
listen to
own.
that.
And she has lots of other authors on. Like she had Kristen Hanna on. She has like all of our favorite
Love.
people.
I need to hear that. I heard
Yeah.
about 28 Summers. She was talking about it, that if she were to fan cast, she would have chosen Blake Lively to play the main girl in 28 Summers. And I was like,
Oh my gosh,
what?
yeah, that's
like
perfect,
she wrote
actually.
it thinking about who it would be, and then that's who she wanted. And then I don't remember who she said for the guy, but it was like so
I never
interesting,
heard that.
and
Ooh,
it made
send me
me
that
even
interview.
more
I
so
wanna listen.
want to read it.
Please read it. I
Yeah.
think you're gonna love it. It's so good. And I also heard that one is in production as well. Like I'm pretty sure 28 Summers is happening hopefully soon. You never know with these things, but
Okay.
I really
I'll
need
send
to
it
see
to you.
it. Did you rate the show?
Oh, the show was probably like a 2. Like I enjoyed it. It was enjoyable, but I feel like here's the thing. Like it was enjoyable and it was a fun show, but I feel like right
Yeah.
now I'm watching a lot of other really good shows. So when I compare it to this, it's almost like it's like a joke. Like it's
Mhm.
not. But also those other shows have multiple seasons already. Well, not even because Bad Monkey has like 1 season. But I just feel like that like the other shows I'm watching are like have so much more depth compared. Like this feels like a fun show.
Yeah.
Where the
it's
other
just a
shows
short-
are like real show. Like it feels like Emily in Paris category. That's
Oh
how
my
I
gosh,
feel about
I'm
the
dead.
show. And I love
That's
Emily in
all
Paris.
I'm interested in is a light.
Love it.
I was
but
gonna
it's
say,
like,
I think it's so funny because I'm normally very harsh with my book ratings. Like I'm typically the one who's like, I look at like the writing style, I look at like all these different things, and and when it comes to TV shows, I'm literally like, all right, I enjoyed it. Like, I didn't cringe that bad. Like, I guess it's like a
maybe
4 or
that's why I
5
do
versus
watch a lot of
Issa is very
shows.
like, she is very well versed in her pop
Show
culture and her
critic.
television. She's a show critic. She's like a 2, fully just a 2.
100%.
That makes sense. Maybe that's where I bring my value on this pod. We should watch more shows.
You bring all the values that don't even.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
So for the book, I rated it 4.5, I think.
Okay.
I think. But I feel bad though, because the first time I read it, I was like, this is a solid 5 stars, no question asked. So I think I should leave it at 5 stars, because obviously reading it a second time, I knew it was going to happen. So there was a little bit of that like impact
The shock
taken
factor
away.
is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel bad. I should probably just leave it at 5 stars, but we'll just say 4.
You can meet in the middle and say 4.75. A median of the
4.75.
two.
There we go. Perfect. And then for the show, I also have 4. If I hadn't read the book and just watched it as it was what it was, I would probably say 4.5. But me being so annoyed for the first 2 episodes, being like, I hate all the changes, I was like 4. I really enjoyed it. Like, and I know if I hadn't
100%.
read the book, I would have been like, so fun.
When I rated the show, I was just rating it as the show. If I have to compare it to the book, I'm giving it like a 3. But just as a show, it was just like fun. Like 4. I love the dancing.
I cannot.
I was like trying to learn the dance.
I'm crying. I feel like we're very in the minority here, because so many people are like complaining about the dance. But it was
No,
fun.
all I've seen are
fine.
TikToks people loving it, obsessed
Really?
with it. Yes.
All I've seen is people being like, this ruined it. This is so cringy, stupid.
Oh my gosh, I'll send you all the ones that I see.
Wow.
Everyone that I've been seeing is.
I need to get on like the positive side of TikTok.
She's on troll TikTok.
I'm on with the trolls. I don't know why. I love everything.
You're like, I don't know why I'm not a troll.
I'm not a troll.
Not
Don't
me.
look at Literally. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, this is really fun. We have some really fun episodes coming up. We're going to do The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandanna. I am so excited. I've already read the book, spoiler alert, but I really was planning on rereading it again this year, because it just is like the best, most atmospheric, cozy vibes I've ever read. And so I really loved it, and I really want Isa and SG to read it. So I think it's going to be great, and I can't wait to reread it and talk about it. That episode will be lots of just like chit chat and fun vibes anyway. So if you haven't read the book, you will enjoy
okay.
that
You can
episode.
still enjoy.
Yay! This was so fun.
Woohoo.
Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to leave a little review if you haven't already on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this. If you're watching on YouTube, we love you. You're a real one. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment. And we love you, and we will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Love you, mean it.